right, welcome back to Youth Cafe. This is Youth Cafe on KTN News. Now it's time for Open Mic right here. And we really want to discuss the issue that the role of students in politics. We saw what happened earlier this week when the University of Nairobi was closed down after students took to the streets to demonstrate and sort of practice their freedom of speech, their freedom of expression, right? So in order to discuss this conversation, I'm introduced with an amazing panel this evening. Closer to me is Gibson Minor, who is an activist and community organizer. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, next to Gibson is Tommy Randall, who is a lawyer. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Asali, on your end.
Ninakwambia hapa hivi watu wanasemanga wao ni machairman. Nyinyi chairman wa kutoa tu form. Wewe ni chairman wa student council, anaitwa Cliff Manono. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
And of course mnajuanga kitu ni kukachora, lakini huyu msee anachora vitu kibao sana in politics. Yeye ni political analyst, anaitwa Josh Onsando. Karibu sana. I hope your conversation itakuwa ni moto. Zinzi twende.
All right, so let us just kick it off, right? We saw what happened this week. And the police brutality that we saw within the students, towards the students rather. Cliff, let me start with you since you do represent a student organization. Do you think that students are being used the wrong way by politicians? And if so, why do we allow it? Why do we allow it? At the end of the day, it's the expense on my life, on my future, on my education. My parents have paid to some extent. Students are the ones even who are paying for their own, school fees. So as a student leader, do you think that we allow politicians to use students the wrong way? And why do we even allow it?
No, I don't think that politicians are using the students in the wrong way. Because actually in this country, everybody has a right to belong to a particular political party or to be in a political affiliation to a given group. So the issue is that most of the issues which has been happening, we cannot link them directly to issue of politics, actually. Yeah.
So you don't think that students are being used the wrong way?
At the moment, over the issues, actually, we cannot link those issues to political issues at the moment.
All right, Gibson, what are your thoughts?
Personally, in regard to that question, I think it's not a question of if politicians are using the students in the wrong way, because students have the right also, and as human beings, have their lived experience and can experience oppression or bad governance, and they have a right to protest if they want to. Yeah, so whenever students go to protest or when people go to protest, they don't necessarily go to protest because of politicians or because of leaders. They might be going out to protest because of themselves and the things that they face.
Wacha niulize hapa hivi Josh, swali simple. Constitution inatupatia hiyo right ya ku demonstrate ama ku protest, si ndio? Do you think tunai overuse ama bado hata tuje utilize?
No, there's no way you can ever overuse a right. A right is yours, it's inalienable. It belongs to you as a Kenyan or a citizen of whatever country. So you can never overuse a right. So to the extent that we see the police reacting in the way they did, I remember in 2014, late May in 2014, there was actually a student protest, and they were protesting when they said that Kaimeni had given an order to double tuition fees for public universities. That protest in my lifetime was the worst we've seen from Nairobi University in my lifetime. But the reaction wasn't as bad as it was this time. So I think the question is more fundamental. It's not about whether students are being used or whether it's about access to the right to protest. I think there's something sinister going on. And as Kenyans, we need to have an honest conversation with ourselves about that.
Randall, I'd like you to talk to us about... Unasikia Kiswahili, si ndio?
Ndio.
Oh, nice. Ojo tuweza kwa tumekitia watu wadhani ni jiungu. Sorry. Do you think polisi wanatumika kuintimidate rights zetu in as much as tunataka kuji-express? Our polisi unafikiria wanatumika as an instrument to make sure that hizi issues zenye zinafaa kushughulikiwa zishughulikiwe?
Personally, my own view is when it comes to protest, we need to retrain our police on how to handle things. If you look at developed nations and how they handle protests, it never gets that violent. You know how violent Kenya police are. Umeona mtu amelala chini unakumbuka ile photo yule msee akikanyagwa hivi?
Nilicheki.
Yeah, I think polisi wana need ku retrain you. Unaona? Lakini pia kuna protesters ambayo ni serious sana.
Najua ni serious, lakini don't you think inatuonyesha pia kuna shida na police line? Wachana hata na mastudio, because studio amechukua initiative, ameenda kwa streets, amedecide mimi na protest. Lakini mmeenda kwa streets, mnafika huko hivyo, polisi labda amekuwa na frustrations zake because hasa wanakangani kama wako ready kuchapana. Gibson.
Police are members of the disciplined force. They don't do things out of, because we are police, let's do this. They follow orders. They follow orders. So we should be asking who is giving the police the order to go into universities and beat up students.
Innocent students.
Innocent students.
I mean, I'm glad that Asili, you sort of threw a span into this, because allow me to play the devil's advocate here. a study that was done by the World Health Organization back in 2012 showed that in Kenya, the people who are committing the highest rate of suicide are police forces and our university students, all right? So then again, let's not act like we do not know. Our police forces are not paid the best. Their living conditions are not the best. And then here you are at a protest, even though it's not a student protest, a normal protest, and a cell is coming towards me. And this is in no right that we're saying what they did was okay. But do we also need to start structuring our police system, the systems within, our police department? Because you cannot have a police officer who is paid poorly and you expect them to do the right thing on the field. What do you think?
In matters of police pay, okay, when someone does something wrong, let's not say because of their conditions or their poverty or something like that. That's something personal. You choose to do something wrong. You choose to beat up someone else. And when you're beating someone else, means that you're no longer human. And you're no longer human. And the people that you're beating up, you consider them not human, but animals.
Your thoughts?
There is a bit of credit in what you're saying. However, policemen are not the only people. Policemen and women are not the only paid people in Kenya. I think the problem is more fundamental. We live in a society, for example, I went to high school where there was a bullying culture. What that bullying culture socialized me and many others is to believe that A, it is okay, and B, it is possible to derive pleasure from the pain of someone else.
All right, okay.
That, I think, is what is plaguing even the policemen. So even as we are calling the policemen to account, we should call ourselves to account as a society in general. The only reason we're not as brutal as them is because we do not have a uniform, a gun, and a baton.
Okay. I'm glad, Josh, you said the issue of a gun, a baton, and etc. I've done my research a bit on what we call riot control tactics, right? And it may not be to the latter, but so anyone would tell you that in any form of protest, you have the first line of human defense. Yes. You have the second one and you have the third one. And if that doesn't sort of hold off the protest, then they're allowed to sort of use rubber bullets. If that escalates, then you're allowed to use force. But here in Kenya, we sort of see an issue where we just jump to the force, all right? Tommy, as a lawyer, what do you think about this? Is it on purpose?
No, I said they seriously need to be reformed in how the police are trained to deal with riots. Because it goes from 0 to 100 in a very, very quick instant. Yeah. 1 minute people are here shouting, the next minute you're seeing people being beaten up, tear gas everywhere. So I think the training is important. Serious reform is needed in the police.
Yes. Okay, Cliff, do you think the same way as a student leader?
The police, what they're actually doing, for them, I'll start with the best knowledge of the students right now is that whatever that happened was brutality. It was an inhuman act for the police who are actually supposed to protect the students and safeguard our lives. They're the ones actually endangering us. It was a brutal act which is uncalled for. And I'd like also to add that at this moment that these people who are involved, these police officers who are involved, these are the people who can be identified. And I believe if the government itself takes a step to identify these people, pick them out and let them face the full law, because we cannot assume that everything is okay at the expense of the life of the students. Right now, the students actually don't have the confidence in the police officers, neither in the administration.
Acha tukirudi tutarudi na Cliff, lakini each and every week sisi huenda kwa streets to make sure that even the voices of the people in the streets zinasikika. So angalia Street Sense tuambie vile una feel juu story.
For me, I find it that us as students, especially the first years, we are going to stay longer at home waiting for this protest to be over. And second, I find it painful for us as students and also as the parents in general, because they paid school fees, yet we have been told to go home indefinitely, yet they're not even telling us what they can give us, like when we might come back to school, or what exactly is going on?
I don't think it's a success if you compare it now to other countries, because they're not being heard as they think they should be, and I think that they should go back to the drawing board and think of other ways to get the higher management to listen to them.
Successful because their point is it's hard. The media takes into consideration, and they are recorded. The public gets to know about it. So I think that's what they want to know. That's what the intent is. They want it to be known so that they can be helped, because actually you cannot be helped if they don't know you have issues. So the issues must be known, and without protest, the administration normally they don't take into consideration. So it's good to protest.
I believe that the demos that the students are doing might be successful only if what they want is hard and is like people hear it and come to terms that like they work out a way, like have a negotiation with the students to understand what they really want, and whatever they want can be put into consideration. But if they just go out on the streets, the police throw the tear gas to them and all that stuff without the originally what they really wanted being attended to, then it's a waste.
Hii staff yote wanafanya ni kitu hizi saidia, cause hakuna siku washeamka wakafanya protest ati wao ndio wameamua. Inakuanga after maybe leader fulani ameamka akasema kuna staff fulani imefanyika, ndio wanakujanga wanatokea. Fatol hawa sio wangekuwa naamka wanasema kulikuwa na shida fulani, maybe gava imekosea, at least wanatokea. So ile staff hufanya ni influence, it's out of influence. Waache stories za influence, kama ni kitu wanajitokeza wao wenyewe, it's reasonable, but juu mse fulani amesema, hiyo sioni reason ya sisi kutokea.
Buda, umeona community business community pia imekuwa represented pale, na kwamba each and every time tunaendanga streets tuna get sense, lakini wameleta vitu mbili kwa meza. Wacha tuzidiscuss hapa hivi sahi. There's two things here. Watu wanauliza how do we measure success ya protest? Alafu kitu kingine ni hizi protests zimekuwa zikifanyika, zimekuwa successful really? Josh,
mi sita measure success ya protest in how do I put it, the most obvious way. For me, ukiangalia wase, even in the last parliament, ulikuwa na mseka Kabando wa Kabando, ulikuwa na mseka Irungu Kangata, who's now Senator Muranga. Kabando I think lost. All these guys made their bones politicking in the university. The reason a university is called a university is because it gives students the opportunity to access a universal wealth of knowledge. So hata kama ukienda huko kampo kama student leader, the best skill you learn is to mobilize wase kwenda demonstration. That is a success in and of itself. So we should allow our students to politic, we should allow them to demonstrate, and the student leaders don't just organize protests, they do much more. So we should allow them to thrive and prepare them to be the leaders of the future.
Cliff, wewe uko direct, wewe uko chuo, wewe student council unaielewa vizuri sana. Ebu, is it a measure of success when vitu zenyu zimesikika ama tu kumobilize watu pia hiyo ni success?
Look here, as student leaders, sometimes the first step we take is to try and solve the problem amicably, by talking to the relevant authorities and trying to solve this issue over the table. But sometimes when it fails, you have to go back to the people who actually elected you to represent them and tell them, look here people, this thing is not working. We are trying to talk to the administration or the relevant authorities, they are not listening to us. So the best way I think is that let us go together so that they can articulate these issues. You know, sometimes in Kenya, it has been inscribed in the people's mind, in the students' mind mostly, that through demonstrations, that's when they can achieve what they need. Because students only demonstrate what is actually rightly theirs and what is allowed within the Constitution. They'll never ask outside the Constitution or outside the Universities Act, which is actually a law. So they always tend to ask for what is provided for.
I mean, but Josh, there's something that you've said in regards to allowing students to demonstrate, their thoughts by protesting. But don't you not think there's a limit to it? There's a limit to freedom of expression. There's a limit to how you do it, the modes you do it by.
Think about it this way. You're seated outside a room with a glass door, and you're extremely hungry, and there are people inside eating. And you say, please let me eat, let me in, I need to eat. Wanakulenga. You say it twice, you say it thrice. After an hour, you'll be banging on that door to be let in. So when you see students on the street, there's a whole lot of negotiation that has happened that has not borne fruit yet. So I don't think you can really overdo that. And as he asked, can you overdo a right? Can you overdo your right to life? Unaweza fika 40 useme nyaya manzeni nimeishi too long. God, I cede my right to life ni uweni sasa. You can't. So there's no such thing. And we need to learn this as Kenyans. The rights that we are provided for in the Constitution are ours. They are inalienable. You cannot over-exercise them.
Tommy, as a lawyer,
yes,
is there the proper way, the right way to protest?
Yeah.
Because protest in Kenya always ends out violent.
Yes, you're right. But like Josh mentioned earlier, before it gets to that point, students have really been pushed to the limit. And also another thing we forget is where University of Nairobi is located. Being that it's central, and anybody who's anybody can just walk in there. So sometimes the outsiders who come and go and mess up the place. So that's one thing we should not overlook based on the location itself.
Right.
Yes.
Gibson, as an activist, do you think it's time we changed how we do our activism in Kenya? Do you think it's also time we changed our relationship, or we start working towards our relationship as students with the police? Because it's not the healthiest relationship.
First of all, I think the question if student protests ever work in Kenya, I think that question is misleading, because they are only, because it suggests that there is an alternative to protesting, and there is none. There are only 3 ways to get your voice heard, and there is only 3 ways for you to get power to listen to you. And those 3 ways are to refuse, to resist, and to protest. Now, how you choose to do those 3 things is upon you as an activist or as an active citizen. But you cannot change the fact that you will need to resist someone who is oppressing you, you will need to refuse someone who is oppressing you, and you need to protest.
Then do we need to be smarter about how we do that?
Smarter, the word smarter, then you're leaning towards that a smart way is out of the streets. And it's not. A smart way is to be on the streets so that everyone can see. Because that's what, the reason why the police disrupt peaceful protests, because half the protests in Kenya are disrupted by police, and they are peaceful. The reason they disband or they disrupt these peaceful protests is because they know the power of street protests. They know the power of change that can come from that.
As students, Cliff, ningependa kujua, nyinyi who make sure that, how do you make sure that, first of all, organize in a way that you can be able to reach out, maybe the administration or the nation. Nyi ujipanga na maybe some of the leaders muitishe sitting first, na ikuwe ni a public, maybe public sitting, maybe usikie student council ina meet politician flani, si politician, sorry, itakuwa nini. Ni kama decide, maybe mna meet CS or something like that. Have you tried reaching out to the authorities? Saile kuna shida.
When students go actually on protest or on the demonstrations, it means the normal way of communicating these issues has been broken. It has been breached. So we have to look for another avenue to articulate these issues, which are our rights.
Is it failing because protests zenyu, meetings zenyu hazijakuwa publicized? Like, tukisikia student council ina meet CS, Kenya inaweza sema, oh, okay, something is being done here. Si tunasikianga tu time ya protest. What have you done to make sure that even during your private meetings, the nation is aware that kuna kitu inafanyika na hii ndio plea students, so that hata watu wakiwa wameketi nyumbani wanaweza watetea students?
Most of these issues which start in school, wanafunzi wa ujuaga. These are the issues we as leaders we bring to the administration. We tell them this is what the students need. These are the changes that they expect. And then we dialogue. If dialogue fails, the second time I'll come with my team of leaders. We sit together. Representatives from various campuses, we sit together, we tell them this issue is serious and it has to be looked into. But then they treat it as a normal thing. Okay. And you find this issue is more serious. So you find that the students themselves, we as leaders, we go back, we meet our people, we organize this thing, we talk in a more peaceful way. We say that we are going to carry our placards, and then at least so that the world gets to hear that we as leaders, we've tried to solve this issue amicably, but it's not being solved. So we want the whole world to at least know that these issues have to be articulated.
All right. And as much as we're having this conversation here in studio, of course, as always, we asked you to send in your thoughts via WhatsApp in regards to what we're talking about, and this is what you had to say.
I support what the police did, but they should consider the human rights. Kwanza, students wafai kuchukua hizo pesa ndogo ndogo so that they can go and demonstrate. It was so brutal, but the police did a good job in restraining peace in the school.
Hii kitu inaniudhi sana. Students kupewa 150. Hii hata si fair kunitoa Kayole kufika Tao. Unapewa 150 ati kufanya demonstration. Hiyo kitu polisi wawatandike vizuri sana. Wazidi na support. Hiyo ni mbaya.
I'm Ian Davis, but the students don't get what they want. Kwanza first I support the police. Lima hawa watu kabisa. Wanatoka hostel kufanya nini? Aish. No, I don't support it.
I do not support the student protest because most of the time they end up destroying most of the things at school, and so they are taken as the criminals, so they end up being punished.
I don't consider student protests as successful because one thing, like we have your end whereby they were sent home for protesting and students were injured, and whatever they were protesting about, they did not achieve it.
It's a big no. This is because when students strike, it may lead to institution to be closed. And while the institution is closed, this leads for these results to longer term dates for the students. For example, if a student was to take 4 years in a university, when they resume, the student might even end taking even 6 years in the university. This is because of the strike. Secondly, I can say when students strike, the police attack them back. And in order for peace to prevail, the police might decide to use tear gas, and tear gas may result for the students to have some side effects. For example, the student might go blind, then the students might even...
Okay, and before we come back to this discussion, as always here on Youth Cafe, we give a platform to the art industry. And this week, we want to introduce you rather to a lady known as Dagi. She is Ethiopian and Kenyan, and she's a fantastic musician here. It's part of her work.
So my name is Dagmawit Sebsebi, but I am known as Dagi Ethio-Kenyan. Ethio-Kenyan because I'm Ethiopian going to speak Kenyan. Style of music. I don't think I have a specific style of music. I think it's music that has been influenced by the two cultures that I'm quoting. Two cultures that are so diverse and so different, but somehow I think because I exist, Ethio-Kenyan exists, I think there's just something that is of its own type. Yeah. My songwriting process is highly inspired by my moments alone. I retreat into a place of prayer and a place of just reflection of my life, of where I'm at that moment. And so from that place, I write something that definitely means something to me, or a song that I use to get out of whatever situation. When I'm down, like I write something that will just have to like catapult my faith to another level. So far, what have I done in the music industry? I started off with one song, one track called Berchi. To me, that song pretty much defined me as Dagi, because it's a song that kind of pushed me into the music industry, because I wasn't sure whether I was made for this. I had so much doubt. Like I didn't think I could hack it. Right now, that's out there is called Awujalo. Basically meaning I declare. This song again is another song that has just made me not give up. Like it's a song that I listen to and I'm like, oh man, says it's leaky. I can't mess over here. I have to step up my game, because it's basically declaring that I will live, I will rise up by faith, and I will move with boldness. And so by the time I'm writing and singing, I will move with boldness. I can't also allow myself to speak. So I think different artists have different experiences. But for me, as in of all the crazy things that are out there that people experience, one of my greatest, obstacles is myself. Because everything else is external. Like if guys wakiongea mbaya, it's external. When you go for a gig and unaambiwa God bless you, na hakuna bahasha, okay. I have a friend who says that. Anyway, so basically, those, as in whatever, all those challenges are external. But what makes them have effect on your life or on your path or on your journey as an artist is whether it actually takes root in your heart. So for me, the main challenges I've had are fear and a lack of self-confidence of sorts. But God provides. Ridiculously enough, God provides. Like I've gone for gigs where, like you expect these guys, they look stable enough to pay. And there's nothing. But I think I've gotten to a point where like it's about the ministry, So there are moments when I'll be like, okay, it's fine, I can do this and it's fine. But then there are also places I've gone where like, hey, yeah, let me just go help these guys. Now nalipa. There's a place I went, I didn't even expect anything actually, because they were friends of ours. And those guys, they lipad, walilipa 50K. I was like, guys, did you just make a mistake? Like, I was in so much shock because I was like, is out? Like, I didn't expect this from them. So the thing is, I think on this journey, the best thing is not to expect too much. Expect more from yourself. As an artist, what are you doing? How are you challenging people? How are you growing people? Because that's the thing that actually matters. Well, my advice to budding talent is trust God. Number 1, trust God. Number 2, trust that God is working in you. Like, it has to be very specific to you. I think for me, one of my greatest struggles, because I did a whole album, by the way, and in that album, like, when I listened to it, I realized that I wasn't totally 100% myself. I could see hints of trying to be like something else, or trying to create a certain sound, or trying, and I think that's where we lose ourselves. But when you begin to know who you are and begin to align yourself with that, I think things get more clear. And I have a feeling that I'm actually getting to that place where I'm able to be confident in the fact that I'm Ethio-Kenyan and confident in that.
All right, so that's Dagi. Now, let's wrap up the conversation here. Josh, I want to ask you this. We saw a list of 35 students of students who were allegedly caused the chaos. But we haven't seen not even a single name of police officers who were brutally beating up students, that we saw clips of them being beaten in classrooms.
Yes.
Honestly.
I mean, that's true. And the official line has been that the reason the police had to act the way they did is because there were rogue elements within the campus, and it is the campus that called them in to act. Now, if you go into a campus with thousands of students, and you brutalize students the way we did, and constitutionally you're supposed to present suspects in court in 48 hours.
Yes.
After 48 hours, there's no one in court.
Right.
It begs 2 questions. Was it necessary? And was it effective? So I think these are issues that IPOA, now that is investigating, has to look at. Were there really rogue elements, or was this just the police working at the behest of someone to quash the protest?
Tommy, as closing remarks, as a lawyer,
Yes.
we always hear investigations, investigations, investigations. We never hear about, okay, so this is the action that has been taken. Do you think that we're going to start seeing that happen? Do you have confidence with this example of your end, we will see investigations being carried out and action?
What I would like is there to be a parliamentary committee to seriously look into this, because these are students, these are people's children. It's very unfair for them to be brutalized like this and no one is held accountable. Right now, you know, everybody is in the fever to deal with the election and amend the Election Act and stuff of that nature, but I would really like to see Parliament form some sort of commission and get to the bottom of this.
Gibson, your closing remarks on that issue.
For me, I'd like to close with two remarks. What I'd like to see most with the university students is to see more university protests in regard to social issues. I would like to see students protesting because eight youths were killed at point blank range by police. I'd like to see the police, I'd like to see student unions or student movements protesting because nurses have been on strike for months.
Okay.
The other thing I would like to see is other public university students, not Nairobi University, but other universities across the country, protesting or standing in solidarity with the University of Nairobi students who are brutalized. But I haven't seen that happening yet. Let them close all the universities, but let them close them because you are doing something right, not remaining silent. And then you remain silent for 4 years, and then after those 4 years, you end up spending 10 years stomaching because you didn't fight for a good governance or a good government.
Okay, and of course, online, we were asking you at home, do you think the student protests in Kenya are ever achieved and desired end goals? 655 of you have tweeted and you've sent in your comments, of which 53% of you say no, and another 47% of you say yes. So those are a few of the tweets that you've seen. Asili, would you like to read one?
Nakwambia inasema it actually depends on how they choose to demonstrate. Associating themselves with violence will cause the cops to interfere.
Okay.
Alafu kuna Tony Basweti anasema the goals are never achieved, but instead we are given a bone to chew on until we are fed up.
All right.
With it eventually, yes.
Thank you so much for watching Youth Cafe here on KTN News. Let's do this again next week, Friday, same place, same time. My name is Nziki Biku. Good evening.
The hottest man in East and Central Africa, Brian Aseli. Change haianzangi Friday peke yake. Change ni kitu ya kila siku. Have yourself a good night.
Thank you, guys.